I'm Dan and welcome back to Adventures in Guitarland, where I teach you how to play guitar by playing a role-playing game. Today, we're going to kind of wrap up what we've been talking about when it comes to learning the notes and learning a little bit of music theory and how to apply it. Before we do me a favor. Click that like, that bell, and that subscribe button. It'll help me out. It's tough times. We all need help. If you don't, it's fine. I'm not really bullying anybody. Just trying to do something different out there. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and get into this lesson. All right, so we already learned all the notes on our guitar. We've learned a bunch of chords, bar chords. How do we apply this? How do we write a song in a key? Well, that's actually very simple, but it's not. You do need to know a few things. Like I said, you need to know those things. You need to know where the notes are, so you know what key you're playing in, things like that. So we're going to play in C, because we're going to continue to learn that C, no accidental scale and how to apply it to our guitar, so that when we learn other things, it makes it so much easier. That being said, just because it's a major scale doesn't mean there's not minor in there. And that's what I was doing earlier. I was just playing the triads, or the chord voicings, that are in C major. So I had that C major triad, then a D minor. Wait, I thought we were in major. Well, we are. But you have to understand that with a major scale, you have different chords. And that's just because of the notes that are in that scale. So the notes that are in the scale, when you start on your root, your one chord, it's major. When you go to that 2 chord, which starts on the D, well, to get its third, which is an F, that is a minor third interval. And when you go from the F to the A, you have a minor chord. You have a minor third over or under a major third, and that makes it a minor chord. Doesn't mean we're going outside of the particular key that we're in. It's just the way it works out. So your second chord, your 2, is a minor chord. Now, when you're looking at chords, often you'll see stuff like this in Roman numerals. And what those are denoting is what is major and what is minor. So if you notice, the 1, Roman numeral I, is capital. It's a capital I. It means it's a major chord. Whereas the 2 and 3 are lowercase i's. They're minor chords. So let's continue looking through this. That 3, like I said, is a minor chord, but then we go up to F, that's a major triad. So your 4th, as well as G, and your 5th are major chords. Then you have your 6th, that A, which goes back to being lowercase or minor, and then you have the troublesome one. That's 7. See that little circle? That means diminished. In your major key, you're always going to have a major 1st, 4th, and 5th, a minor 2nd, 3rd, and 6th, and the diminished 7th. Now, what does that mean to you as a player? Well, let's say we're playing in C, and we're just playing power chords, right? So I wanted to play something in C, and I'm starting on the power chord, and I'm just going. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me right now, because I'm playing power chords. I'm not including the 3rd, which is what makes something major or minor. So, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. However, the second we switch over and we start playing open chords in C, now we're including those thirds. So that matters. And if you listen, it didn't quite sound right. That's because that's a D major chord that doesn't really belong in the C major key. It should be a D minor, where we lower that 3rd. And that's why it's important. Because when you're writing stuff in a specific key, you need to try to keep the chords within the key. And I dropped my pick. All right, so how do we keep chords in the key? Well, you know what they are. Now, if you can't remember that your 1st, 4th, and 5th are always going to be major, and the others are going to be minor, except for that pesky seventh, which is always the note right before your tonic. So in C, it's actually, that B is always going to be diminished. That's just the way it works out. When you're talking about major keys, again, this is for major. That being said, what's another way to learn that? Well, if you know your notes, you know you're starting on C. Well, C, go up to the A string, same fret, go up 2 frets. There's your major chords in the key of C. Your 1, 4, and 5 chords. So your C, F, and G chords. There's your majors. So how do I learn minor? Well, go from where you're starting, go down 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Do that same thing again. There's my minor chords in the key of C. A, D, E. And then if you just come up 1, there's your diminished. That B. So again, looking in the key of C, you know that C, F, G are your majors. So going down 3 steps back. You know that A, D, E are your minors, and then you just go right there to find your diminished. So when you're writing in keys, you employ that. So if I was writing in C, and I wanted to do kind of what my intro used to be, and there was a reason I chose that, so that I could do this later on and say, hey, it sounded good, it sounded fine, but it technically wasn't correct for the key if you were playing in C. So that typically that I played doesn't really work in the key of C because you have that D major. Now what is that in? What has a G major, a G major, a C major, and a G major? Well, that's the other key that I'm constantly going into, G, because it has that sharp F. Wow, there's my, in the G major, there's my major chords. Now I can't really go down 3 steps unless I go to open, and that's fine. So E, A, and B are my minor chords, and then that F sharp is my diminished. So that works. So this right here, does not work in C major, but it works in G major. So let's look at how I would play this if it were in C major. Well, it would just be simple. It would be, doesn't sound quite as good though, does it? And the reason for that being is because of the way that chords work and the way that certain chords, when they're arranged differently, sound like they need to resolve into something. So if you listen to this, it sounds resolved. It sounds like that's the end. Cool. But you take that and make it minor and play it in C. Sounds like it needs to go somewhere, doesn't it? That's because it's an unresolved thing. If you want to know why that is and how to fix it, stick around. There's going to be another video in a couple weeks on chord progressions and how and why that is a thing and what the different chord types are and why some resolve well in certain keys and some don't. Nonetheless, that's an intro version on how to play in a key. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you learned something, again, click that like, subscribe, and bell icon so that YouTube gets me out to other people so more people can learn how to play guitar by playing a role-playing game. Until next time, enjoy your adventure, and I'll see you in Guitarland.